Hello everyone, welcome to Ansarkari. So today we'll be taking up the newspaper for 1st of March. So we have the first article, India needs 7.8% growth to become high income. This was said by World Bank. So as per the World Bank's latest report for becoming a high income economy in a generation, India, it has made remarkable economic progress over the past 2 decades, achieving an average growth rate of 6.3% between 2000 and 2024. So, however, to transition into a high income economy by 2047, we must have a sustain an annual GDP growth rate of 7.8%, the report has said, and it also outlines key policy areas where India must accelerate reforms, including investment, labor force participation, structural transformation, and regional economic development. Apart from that, it draws lessons from successful transitions of nations like Chile, South Korea, and Poland. And it also emphasizes the need for deeper integration into the global economy. Now, when we talk about becoming a high income nation, we also talk about India's growth potential and challenges which we could face. So, becoming an economic success, it has to be built on rapid industrialization and becoming a service sector and strong macroeconomic stability. So, when we talk about the GDP per capita, so that has nearly tripled since 2000, and its share in the global economy, even that has doubled to 3.4% in 2023. But despite these achievements, the report warns that maintaining a business as usual approach will not be enough to achieve this high income status. And India's gross national income per capita, it must increase nearly eightfold, requiring structural reforms at unprecedented scale. Apart from that, the report also outlines four critical areas for policy action. So the first is boosting the investment. This could be increasing the private and public investment from 33.5% of GDP to 40% by 2035. Apart from that, encouraging higher foreign direct investment inflows and developing robust financial market, which would basically help support the long-term infrastructure financing. Then the second area into this could be enhancing the labor force participation. So यहाँ पे we can talk about improving the overall labor force participation from 56.4% to 65% by 2047. Also raising the female labor participation, which is currently at 35.6% to at least 50%, and investing in the human capital development through skill enhancement programs. Apart from that, the third area could be structural transformation and technology adoption. So this could be reducing the agricultural employment from 45% to align with global peers. Over here, taking example from Vietnam and China. Then promoting digitalization and integration into the global chains and strengthening research and development initiatives in the high growth sectors. Then also enabling regional growth. So over here, we could focus on infrastructure, healthcare, education in the underdeveloped state, while encouraging the developed state to deepen the business reforms and global trade participation. So this is what the article is mainly talking about. Then we have the next article over here, need to revisit the GDP computing. So economists have expressed concerns over revision of the GDP data starting from the financial year 23. And what this article is talking about is basically saying how there is a need to recheck the way GDP is estimated. Now, when we talk about the provisional GDP estimate, they're based on listed companies' data, which basically suggest how unlisted companies have been done much better than the listed companies. So, adding upon the revisions are huge and one of the largest revisions seen in the recent years. Then we have the next article, Mahakumbh to help reach 7.6% for growth. Now, this is talking about how the Mahakumbh will likely help pull the economy of 27.6% growth in the fourth quarter, which would help achieve 6.5% rate for the whole of 2024-25. And when we talk about this, so we have about 500 to 600 million people who have visited and they've spent additional sum of money, which can also be added to the nominal GDP. And apart other factors which could also help economy would basically include export growth and improvement in the public apps, even the good performance of exports. So this is basically talking about merchandise, non-petroleum, non-gem, and jewelry, which is also rising at 10% rate for the entire April to January period. And it also justifies the uncertain global outlook. Apart from that, India's economic momentum is also expected to sustain, driven by strong rural demand and a revival in the urban consumption. उसके अलावा even the union budget, income tax relief, emphasis agriculture, MSME investment, that they are also likely to enhance the medium-term economic prospect and basically help boost the economy in the same way. Then we have the next article, rural spending may soon align with urban markets. So over here, we're talking about a recovery in the rural market, which is basically prompting the retailers and the FMCG companies. So FMCG is fast moving consumer goods companies to basically increasingly tailor their strategies. So this is showing up in more access packs of premium items. So basically the trend of mass personalization as spendings and patterns they are changing and consumers in the countryside they also aspire for better products as well as services. So over here, quick commerce it is basically expected to evolve in the next 5 years. And even when we talk about spendings on the consumer electronics and appliances, they could also grow aspirational since users they gain access to financing options, which we can see in the data given over here, how in the food, footwear, household, and other spendings, there we can expect an increase by 2030. Then over here, we have an article by the Decathlon and how they're also targeting smaller stores and opening up more stores. And they also believe how India is a priority market. So over here, they're basically pushing for local manufacturing, even when it comes to setting up factories, particularly in sectors glass and basically a composite metal products and bicycles, which is a new segment for companies in India. So basically, competitive intensity is also expected to grow with groups such as Reliance. This is for Decathlon. So they're talking about how 68% of the goods that are sold in India, they're all locally produced, and 8% of the global productive range is also met from here. So they're also aiming to take the local manufacturing to 85% by 2026. MFIs need a course correction. So MFI is basically microfinancing institutions, and they're institutions which are critical for facilitating credit access and income generation for some of the economy, mainly weakest sections in India. So when we talk about the current iteration in this field, this could primarily be attributed to lapse and risk management practices on the part of at least some entities. And even the level of collection efficiency may be the envy of larger retail lenders. So over here, we can basically say all the microfinance institutions have missed out on the lessons of detailed credit crisis of 2007 and 8, and most importantly, highlighting the lack of digitalization and weak data analysis capability, which spreads poor risk, culture, and governance. So over here, it's basically highlighting how they need to work on more and better data using building credit models, which could marry this institution insights with advanced data analytical capabilities, which would basically help provide powerful and explainable credit score. So over here, they must make a course correction quickly, which would basically be detrimental to the credit access of the sectors, of the weaker sectors in India. Market crash, why? What now? So over here in this article, we're talking about the Sensex at BSC, which fell 1.9% on Friday, which was also close to a nearly 8-month low. And when we talk about what led to this fall, we have a lot of things which have combined to produce it, like some earning disappointment and high valuations. So there have been reasons for the foreign investors to leave. Now, this is now another important reason over here is also Donald Trump's America's First policy, where it is asking investors to invest in the US. And people also, they're committing the money over there since they also have tax cuts, which basically means having higher profits after tax. And since the returns on the US high yield bonds, they're equal to the return on the Indian equity investors' field, so they should invest in the US markets. So now when we discuss about this market fall and how it could fall further than the market, so this is mostly driven by flows rather than the fundamentals. So when they go up, they basically go up above the fair value and vice versa if they fall. So over here, as long as the foreign portfolio investors they're selling the market, it will continue to fall. And this will only stop once the selling stops. So now what should the investors do at this point? Over here, they could basically not sell since there's no point unless they're heavily overweight on the momentum. Apart from that, stocks and investors, they should consider investing in a staggered manner. So this basically means going for a high quality stock or large cap schemes of mutual funds instead of the momentum stocks. And when we talk about market, so over here we talk about the Indian economy, which has slowed down a bit in the past 6 months, and which has been the reason for the market fall as well. So, if we see in the Indian economy, there is no fundamental instability, and the only thing that is weak is the demand. So, to address this demand, we can talk about more monetary and fiscal policy tools and get some support in the union budget as well, which could help tackle this. So now even this article's factor investing for uncertain times is when we talk about the factors investing, selecting stocks based on the attributes that have consistently delivered outperformance over time over the key factors, including size. So over here, it would be focusing on mid-cap stocks, then quality selecting financially robust companies with high return on equity and low debt value. So basically, investing in undervalued stocks are relative to the fundamental and momentum, which means selecting stocks which has strong recent performances. So investors, they can focus on the proven drivers, size, value, momentum, quality investors, and second, reduced impact of short-term noise. And they can basically position themselves for a long-term success instead of reacting to social media fuel volatility adopted or discipline framework, which should basically help navigate turbulence and achieve the sustainable financial growth. You are gambling with World War III. So, this article is regarding the Ukrainian president and US president, in which Ukraine has asked America to be cautious with Russia and America accusing Ukraine of being disrespectful. So, over here, Trump basically wants to quickly wind down the 3-year war that has been ongoing and improve ties with Russia and recoup the money which was spent to support Ukraine. So, America has adopted a much less committed stand towards European security as well. And also Ukraine, which would contribute 50% of all revenues earned from the future monetization of all relevant Ukrainian government-owned natural resources assets to reconstruction fund jointly owned and managed by the United States and Ukraine. So when we talk about Ukraine, that has rapidly expanded its defense industry production in the past 3 years, but it has remained heavily reliant in the foreign military assistance. And even America has criticized Ukraine for handling the war and called the president a dictator and urged him to agree to the minerals deal. Have for Europe, India is a pillar of certainty, both exploring security and defense partnership. So, European Union and India, they're basically exploring a security and defense partnership. There's basically growing cooperation in the defense and security domain. Now, this includes joint exercises and collaboration between Indian Navy and the European Union maritime security ties. Now, this shows how both the European Union and India they're committed to international peace and security, and both the sides they emphasize the need to deepen the collaboration in counter terrorism and strength and international cooperation to combat terrorism, including cross-border terrorism and terrorism financing in a comprehensive and sustained manner. So, for Europe, India is a pillar of certainty in the increasingly uncertain world presently. So, basically, now is the time to step up the security and defense cooperation on land and sea, and even in space. So, basically, India is looking into diversifying its military supply and access to new capabilities, which would basically make the condition for both Opinion and India to partner on this project. So both the sides both want to work on three areas together, which is strategic technology, digital governance, and digital connectivity. Both committed to elaborate the respective strengths to accelerate a human-centric digital transformation and the development of advanced, trustworthy digital technology. So, such as AI, semiconductors, high performance computing, and 6G. So both all of these will basically benefit the economy as well as the society. And both the sides they've agreed on joint research cooperation on sea cycling of batteries for electric vehicles, marine plastic litter, and waste of hydrogen. So basically exploring cooperation on harmonizing standards for EV charging infrastructure, including cooperative normative research for harmonized testing solutions and knowledge exchange in the e-mobility. That is what the site will be focusing upon. Then we have who are PKK, the Kurdish armed group fighting against Turkey. So, for a period of more than 4 years, Turkey it has been fighting an armed insurgency by the Kurdistan Workers' Party or PKK. So, this is basically a militant group which says it seeks greater rights for the country's Kurdish minority. Now, this community, it originally was launched an armed insurgency against the Turkish state in 1980s when they sought independence for their community, which basically makes up about 15% or more of the Turkish population. So they started by attacking the military bases and police stations, and which led to prompting up harsh government response towards them. And they are an ethnic group of roughly 40 million people concentrated in Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. And when we talk of the past, so in after World War One or during that time, they were originally promised a nation of their own by the world power, but it was never granted to them. And then since 1991, for the large of the northern regions of Iraq, they've been semi-autonomous. So violence flared on and off under a new round of peace talks. So they did have peace talks in 2011, but that also collapsed in May 2015 when both the sides blamed each other for the failure and nothing came out of it. So then we have Uttarakhand avalanche. So basically, it's regarding a massive glacier avalanche which struck the BRO, Border Road Organization project site in Mana village, Uttarakhand, leaving 22 workers trapped under ice. And ISME, the rescue operations, which was led by ITBP, which is Indian Army Indo-Tibetan Border Police, has been hampered by continuous snowfall. So now when we talk about avalanche, so this is basically a mass of material moving rapidly down a slope. And what triggers an avalanche? So this is when the material on a slope breaks loose from its surrounding. Apart from that, इसके causes होते हैं weather conditions when there's heavy snowfall, rapid temperature changes, strong winds and rain, which all contribute to these conditions. Then we have slope conditions. So this is steepness of orientation, and shape of a slope, which can contribute to the likelihood of an avalanche occurring. Then snowpack conditions, how the structure and stability of snowpack also contributes to these conditions. Basically, weak layers of snow or ice within the snowpack. It can cause it to collapse or trigger. Then even human activities, so we hear skiers, snow mobilizers, and other recreational users, they can trigger the avalanche by their movements in the slope, and natural events such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, rocks, they can all also trigger the avalanche. Then we have the Tamil Nadu governor who's talking about a language or which is being reached within the state. And he basically gave a speech where he focused on a broad narrative of Sanatan Dharma and a resurgent Bharat, which basically brings out the sharp fit system of Tamil Nadu's long standing two language policy, positioning it as a hindrance to educational and economic opportunities for the state youth. So he also asserted that no one is imposing any language on another, and also challenged the dominant political narrative in the state of Tamil Nadu, and also stated how there should be no imposition. People must have the freedom to choose the language that they want to study. Three bills and a public campaign. So this is regarding the Jammu Kashmir Assembly budget session, which basically calls for a liquor ban, and they've been growing stronger in the union territory. So we have three private member bills which are aimed at liquor ban, and they've been submitted. So to basically prohibit the advertisement, sale, purchase, consumption, and manufacture of alcoholic drinks in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So while the sale and consumption of liquor is not banned in Jammu and Kashmir, its public consumption has always been considered a taboo in the valley. So this is basically regarding the tourism and how the tourists create outrage and cause disturbances in the state under the effect of liquor. So need to be aware of women difficulties. Supreme Court revokes dismissal of MP judicial officers. So this regarding the Supreme Court setting aside the termination of two women judicial officials in Madhya Pradesh, saying that the action against them was punitive, arbitrary, and therefore illegal. So this happened after the state government it terminated their services on the recommendation of the Administrative of Committee of Madhya Pradesh High Court. And these officers then made a representation to the CJI alleging that termination from the service is illegal, arbitrary, and contrary to the Madhya Pradesh Judicial Service Rules 1994. So they've also stressed upon women in judiciary and advances in women's greater participation, which plays a important role in promoting gender equality in these products, and also being sensitized to women. Justice system will be strong only when it is inclusive. So here we have the president talking about how any justice system will be considered strong only when it is inclusive and when it is working for the weaker and deprived sections of the society based on forensic evidence, and it also provides impartial and speedy justice. So, speaking on the criminal justice system, she also tested upon the rise of digital technology, especially AI, and also talking about the capabilities of forensic experts. Also, on the other hand, how there are new ways to commit crimes, and it can only be done by staying a step ahead of these criminals. So, with policy prosecution, criminal justice delivery system should also be able to control the crimes and not only work after the crime has been committed. Sufi saints read Quran, listen to the voices of Vedas. So, Prime Minister on Friday talked about how India was a land where every culture had flourished and there was something special in its soil. And this was done in the speech in the 25th edition of the Jahan-e-Khusro festival. And he talked about how and when the tradition came to Hindustan, and it also felt it had connected with its own land and testings on the Sufi tradition. And he talked about when Sufi classical music traditions merged and gave birth to new expressions of love and devotion, which can be seen in the Qawwali of Hasrat Khusrau and the poetry of Bulle Shah, Mir, Kabir, Rahim, and Ras Khan. And they gave new dimensions to devotions, which is tested about how the Sufi tradition has brought the world closer together. Even in this article, The Legacy of Khusrau, we talk about Khusrau, who is referred to as the Indian Turk, and much what we know about him comes from his own writings, which are interposed as autobiographical information. So basically, his father, he came to India from Central Asia in the early 13th century as the Mongol Genghis Khan ravished Islamic Transoxiana, and he was proud of both sides of his lineage, and his life and writing, they symbolize a sentence of the two different cultures. So he became a professional poet at the age 20 and he served as one until his death. And even the court poet depended on continued patronage of his patron and always faced competition. So he served at least five sultans. It was Muizuddin Qabat, Jalaluddin Khalji, Alauddin Khalji, Kutubuddin Mubarak Shah, and Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Also, and many other powerful patrons over a period of 5 decades. So, this testifies to the quality of his poetry. And he was the most beloved disciple of the Chishti Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia. And even now, 700 years after his death, his lyrical beauty, sophisticated word play a very important role, and also exploration of diverse themes in the Khusro poetry. It continues to enamor the audience. So apart from that, he also wrote highly of Hindus, the Brahmins of India, which is a great wealth of philosophical thought than what Rumi had revealed, and also about the how it is instrumental in the development of modern Indian classical languages. Needed the big leap. So this regarding the era of incremental progress in AI is over. Now this is talking about the AI dominance, which has also brought in with it a new era of innovation, disruption, and geopolitical time. So with the emergence of DeepSeek, which matches the capabilities of leading models like OpenAI GPT, also being an open source and free AI. So the balance of the air power is shifting, and it's basically proving how true innovation isn't just about resources, but it is actually about the speed, efficiency, and strategic intent behind them. And India also talks about commitment to inclusive and sustainable AI, ensuring how technology drives labor market growth while also aligning with the environmental security and social well-being. So the DeepSeek success, it basically serves as both a wake-up call for the established partners and an inspiration for the emerging challengers. And in the AI race, we have reached a breaking point where nations they are no longer are just competing on innovation. Now they're battling for control, which will basically lead to shape the future. And also they find themselves dependent, vulnerable, and left behind in the new AI order. So, with the coming time, we witness intensified competition and rapid advancements with the global landscape, which is no longer just about the progress, it is about who drives the disruption and who gets left behind. When we talk about India, so we currently stand at a decisive juncture where the aspiration is to become a developed nation by 2047 and unlock the full potential of emerging technologies like AI to drive this transformation also. Even how our success would depend on three non-negotiable imperatives. So, being world-class talent to drive AI excellence and global competitiveness, then cutting edge on R&D innovation to ensure how we're not just a consumer of AI but also a creator. Then, all uncompromising commitment to human-centric AI, ensuring that innovation serves society and as well as strengthens our global standings as well. Then we have changes to Waqf Board proposed by JPC. So the Union Cabinet declared all the 14 amendments to the Waqf Board, which was proposed by the Joint Parliamentary Committee last month. And the bill was introduced in August to amend the Waqf Act of 1995, which covers the management of Waqf properties in India. So Waqf Board is basically a board to which Muslims donate the property too. And this basically, when we talk about this act, this basically gave the government of effort in the tool in regulating these properties and settling disputes regarding such properties. So amendments they require every property that is dedicated to be registered on a central photo and database within 6 months after the law commences. And after the commencement of the law, no suit, appeal, or legal proceedings can be filed by Waqf if they're not registered under the central portal. Apart from that, the bill also gives district collector the power that was previously with the tribunal only. And the government it makes a decision how disputed property will be treated as the government property and not a Waqf property if there's a case ongoing. And it also proposed allowing a non-Muslim chief executive officer and at least two non-Muslim members to be appointed by the state government to this board. So the state government official who is also part of this board should be a joint secretary level officer dealing with such matters. So this was all for today. Thank you, everyone.